Chapter 20 is about network monitoring. When we're talking network monitoring, in many cases, we're going to use the Simple Network Management Protocol, or SNMP. This protocol is actually designed as a network management protocol. It contains three components: an SNMP manager, or the network management station. Your managed devices, these are your routers, switches, printers, servers, and other things that have an SNMP client. And your management information base. The management information base is a collection of data, things as a database that can be queried by the network management system. There are two ways SNMP works. The first is your SNMP manager, either the network or the network management system, actually sends out a GET request to the server saying, hey, I need this information, and the server responds. Now, the types of information we're looking for from these systems, for example, on a server, we might be looking at hard disk space, bandwidth utilization, are certain applications running, and the response, maybe, for example, is this application running, might be yes or no. Hard disk utilization might be the amount of current disk space being utilized. And for bandwidth utilization, again, just simply bandwidth utilization. The second type of packet we can get into the network management system is called a trap. Now, a trap is something when something happens that's abnormal. Then the device where that abnormality happened will send back information to the network management system or network management station saying, hey, something happened here that's abnormal. You know, maybe I dropped a packet, maybe a circuit went down, and it would send that trap back. There are three versions of SNMP. Version 1 is our original version. Version 2 is a very minor upgrade. Basically, it allowed us to query multiple items in one command. In version 1, you could go to the system and say, hey, computer, what's your CPU utilization like? In version 2, you can query CPU utilization, memory, and bandwidth utilization all in one query, as an example. Version 3, we added authentication and encryption. Version 3 is considered the secure version as of today. Other types of monitoring tools we have. One is called a packet sniffer. The most common packet sniffer in the world right now is called Wireshark. It's an open source piece of software that if you really want to see what's going on in your network, Wireshark's one of the tools you're going to be very familiar with at some point. A packet sniffer basically can sniff the network looking for frames or packets from the network, and it's got the ability to perform analysis of the various protocols or applications. So it knows what the protocols look like, it knows what the applications look like. NetFlow is a monitoring system that was developed by Cisco. Other systems use NetFlow now. They don't have to be necessarily Cisco devices anymore. But this NetFlow tracks data flowing between sources and destinations of the network. It doesn't capture the packets, so it can't see the protocols, but it does capture your source addresses, destination addresses, source and destination ports, number of bytes transmitted, and time this all happens in. So you can get some performance characteristics from the network based on NetFlow. And interface monitors. These track bandwidth utilization, various statistics on individual interfaces. So an interface monitor can return things like bandwidth and throughput, total utilization of the port, packet drops, error rates, packet discards, and interface resets. Performance monitors are software that's used to track something over a period of time. For example, the number of hits on a website over last month, or how fast does a web page respond. And then lastly, we have logs. These store information about a particular aspect of the system. So logs actually are used to really tell us what's happened on a particular device. And for example, on a firewall, the firewall will tell you it's blocked attempted access to a server on this port. It's permitted access to this server on this port at this time from this address, that type of thing. One thing you've got to know in order to effectively use monitoring is you've got to know to establish what's called a baseline. A baseline is a historical look at performance. Remember, without this baseline, you don't know something's abnormal. It might be really normal to see, say, bandwidth utilization at 85% for a given circuit. If you don't know 85% is normal, when you see it drop to 83%, you don't know that's abnormal. Or conversely, if it's 85%, that's an average, but we'll say that bandwidth goes between 80 and 90% throughout the day. So if this circuit goes to 90% bandwidth utilization, again, you don't know what's normal or not. So we have to take a historical look at performance for performance, and that's called a baseline. And you can do that for any number of things. You say take historical rates for CPU utilization. What does a CPU look like? And it's normal to see things vary by hour. What does bandwidth look like? And again, over a period of time. What about hard disk utilization? For example, one of the things that we see at in a lot of places for bandwidth, so your day starts at 8 a.m. at your office. So bandwidth at 7:45 might be relatively low. At 8, at 8 it skyrockets, and then kind of settles down around, say, 9 a.m. It does this bit up until just before noon, and it pops up a little bit, goes down, and then about 1 o'clock goes back up, and then it really starts to drop down again. So that might be bandwidth utilization for a day in an organization. So, so when you see something like this, you know what's normal. And we'll say this is, up here we might have 60% bandwidth utilization, and here's close to 30. So get an idea where things go. Again, you need this baseline in order to tell you what's normal or not. So we'll say we have our bandwidth, our baseline here. Now we'll say at some point we see this normally. We walk in and we see this starting here like so, but then we see this. Now again, this isn't, our network's totally capable of handling this, but what is happening to keep this like that? That would tell us something's wrong. Something's keeping us artificially high where we should be down here. We're up here. So what? At this point, it gives you something to look at. You log into the network. This is where you go back to the packet analyzer or the NetFlow device, and you figure, hey, looking at NetFlow, you see there's new traffic between a remote site and your corporate office. Is that traffic expected? It may or may not be. If it's not expected, you got to figure out what's going on. Hard disk utilization is another one we like to baseline. It's another one we might want to monitor and baseline. So with the hard disk utilization, we have a 1 terabyte drive, and we'll say this is 0 and this is 1 terabyte. And over the course of, say, a month, we'll say we start here at, I don't know, 300 gig, and it kind of spikes up a little bit and spikes up, and over the course of a year or two, you might see, wow, I'm getting close to my 1 terabyte limit, and we'll say this is in monthly increments. So we notice that over the course of time, that our 1 terabyte hard drive utilization has gone from having about 300 gig, about 30% over 5 months. We're now sitting at maybe at 600 gig right here. So if we're at 600 gig over the course of 5 months, that's a pretty steady increase. How long do you think we're going to take to fill up that 1 terabyte volume? Might only be a couple more months. So again, is this expected or not? If it's expected, you go out and buy more hard drive space. If it's not expected, you got to figure out what's causing this. We'll say this is a 100 gig drive and 0. This can be happening for any number of reasons. So when you see this is probably an application that they take data in at some point at a pretty steady rate, and then they process that data and send it back down to 0, and it just keeps in this pattern. When that happens, usually get with a database administrator or an application person and ask what's going on with that drive. That's something, just again, it's not a bad thing, it's just what's happening. You don't know it's bad until you find out what's causing that. And it might be normal. This is actually a normal process I've seen time and time again over the years, where some application is collecting data, that data is processed at some point in time, and it resets. So if these are, say this is Monday and this is Friday, and this is Monday and this is Friday, you kind of know that this is a process that's happening on a weekly basis. So again, baseline your data. You have to know what this stuff looks like. And one of the easiest ways to tools to do this, you're going to want to get some kind of an SNMP monitor. CompTIA is a good open source one. There are dozens of tools out there that do this. Some are open source, some are paid for. And that's it for chapter 20.